Today I am going to talk about the inverters, specifically low frequency sine wave inverters. I will be covering the basic block diagram of sine wave inverters. I will be talking about the PWM scheme that is used to generate the inverter stage output. After that I am talking about the MOSFET drivers, which forms an important part of your power section. I will be taking some examples of ICs to explain the full bridge, half bridge and single channel topology to drive your MOSFET bridge. And after that I will be covering some of the line voltage and line current sensing techniques. In that section I will be talking about the traditional ways and their drawbacks of sensing the line voltage and how we can address this issue using semiconductor components. So our first topic is the basic block diagram of sine wave inverter. Here you can see the basic block diagram of sine wave inverter. It consists of a battery bank which is a generally lead acid battery which can be a 12 volt, 24 volt or 48 volt depending on the wattage requirement of your inverter. This battery input is then fed to your power stage. Your power stage can be push-pull, full bridge, half bridge depending on your circuit requirement. Your power stage output is then fed to a power transformer. Power transformer is used to generally step up the input voltage. It also provides the isolation between your output load and the battery side. Your inverter output is fed to the output load or your mains input is fed to the output load, and that decision is made by your controller. Your controller generates a PWM scheme that drives your power stage, which is a full bridge or half bridge. Your controller also takes care of certain alarm systems such as overcurrent protection, over temperature protection, thermal shutdown, and all this is done by your microcontroller. The algorithm that is there in microcontroller takes care of your power stage, your output switchover and your safety features. There are basically two methods to do your DC to AC conversion. The first method is designers generally go for a boost stage which converts your low voltage DC to high voltage DC bus, and they modulate that high voltage DC bus to get a sine wave output. In second method they modulate a 12 volt or a 24 volt low voltage DC bus and they generate a sine wave on the primary side. They use a step up transformer to convert that low voltage sine wave pulse to a high voltage stepped up sine wave output. So here is the basic power stage which is used in your low frequency sine wave inverter. It consists of a bridge which consists 4 MOSFETs. These MOSFETs are driven by a MOSFET driver whose inputs comes from your microcontroller. The PWM scheme used in low frequency sine wave is known as triangulation scheme. Here you compare a reference sine wave with a triangular wave. A comparator gives you a PWM output which used to drive your MOSFET bridge. This MOSFET bridge is driven in typical manner. Suppose during positive half cycle you keep Q1 always off, you turn on Q2 always on, then you apply PWM to Q3 and complementary of that PWM to Q4. In negative half cycle you keep Q3 off, you always keep Q4 on, you apply PWM to Q1 and complementary of that PWM to Q2. Your PWM is stepped up on secondary side. Secondary side there is a capacitor which forms a LC filter along with your secondary side inductance. So you get a filtered waveform on your output and you get a simple smooth sine wave as the output of your inverter. This diagram illustrates deeply and more clearly how your bridge is actually driven. So as I said earlier, during positive half cycle, here you can see your Q1 gate signal is low, so your Q1 is off, and your Q2 gate signal is high, so your Q2 is always high, always on, and then you apply PWM to Q3 and complementary of that signal to Q4. In negative half cycle, you can see Q3 has a low gate drive, Q4 has a high gate drive, so your Q3 will be off, your Q4 will be on, and then you apply PWM to Q1 and complementary of that PWM to Q2. And then on the output side you have a LC filter which gives you a sine wave output. After understanding the basic PWM scheme of low frequency sine wave inverters, we should look at why do we need a MOSFET driver to drive this bridge. Your microcontroller cannot drive the bridge directly because of the output sourcing current limitations. Also, to drive these high side MOSFETs you need a level translation, and to drive a gate of MOSFET you need sufficient gate drive current. For that reason, designers generally go for MOSFET drivers to drive the MOSFET bridge. So there are different techniques to drive your bridge. There are dedicated full bridge controller, full bridge MOSFET drivers that comes in market, which can directly drive your all the 4 MOSFETs using single IC. There are half bridge drivers available which designers can put on each half bridge, and there are dedicated single channel low side gate drivers which designer can go for. The first scheme of driving your MOSFET bridge is using a full bridge MOSFET driver. To explain a full bridge topology, I am taking an example of a full bridge MOSFET driver, that is SM72295. A full bridge MOSFET driver necessarily have 2 high side MOSFET drivers, 2 low side MOSFET drivers. To drive a high side MOSFET driver you need a bootstrap diode and bootstrap capacitor to do a voltage translation. In most of the ICs that are available in market, this bootstrap diode comes inside the chip. Here you can see a 100 volt bootstrap diode is already there inside the chip. So it reduces the extra component count, and it also improves the system performance. Apart from these bootstrap diodes, your MOSFET drivers generally do not come with a current sensing amplifier, but for this typical IC, the current sense amplifiers are inside the IC, and you can use this current sense amplifiers to sense the battery charging and discharging current. So this circuit explains the full bridge configuration of your MOSFET driver stage. Here you can see the MOSFET driver it's setting over here. Your input PWM inputs are coming from a microcontroller. It has internal bootstrap diodes and the bootstrap capacitors are outside. So the high side drives are generated to drive these high side MOSFETs, and low side drivers drive these low side MOSFETs. Your load is connected in between the source of high side MOSFETs, which is generally a transformer in case of low frequency inverters. And the PWM scheme explained in the previous slides is generally done by at a microcontroller side. So your MOSFET driver just translates your voltage from microcontroller's voltage level to the gate voltage level of your MOSFETs, and it provides the sufficient gate driving current in order to give a faithful output. As I explained earlier, SM72295 has 2 internal current sense amplifiers which are drawn over here. During your inverter mode, your current flows from your battery to your load, and during your charging mode, your current flows from your AC mains step down version to charge your battery. So your current flows into your battery. So during inverter mode operation and during your charging operation, the direction of currents is different. Generally people use 2 different amplifiers to sense this current and then give it to the microcontroller to take a necessary action. With SM72295 you can use the integrated high side current sense to sense the charging and discharging current. These amplifiers have buffered output, so you can feed this output directly to your microcontroller ADC channel. Many designers do not want to go with a full bridge driver. This is because they want more flexibility with their layout. So they generally go with a 2 half bridge drivers or a 4 single channel gate drivers. This gives them a layout flexibility and increases their system performance. So there are different full bridge, half bridge and single channel ICs available in the market. I will be taking an example of UCC 27211 half bridge MOSFET driver to explain the half bridge topology of driving the MOSFET bridge. So here you can see UCC 27200 used in a half bridge driver stage. Here your PWM inputs come from your microcontroller. Your microcontroller can operate at 1.8 volt, 3.3 volt, at 5 volt. Because these ICs can accept a CMOS as well as TTL level input. The internal bootstrap diode and the output bootstrap capacitor translates the high side drive to drive your high side MOSFET. Your low side MOSFET is driven by your low side MOSFET driver stage. The MOSFET driving capability of these drivers is around 3 amperes, and they can address inverters ranging from 800 VA to 3 kVA. You use each UCC 27200 or any half bridge MOSFET driver to drive each half bridge. So to drive a full bridge you need two different sets of ICs. So what are the different parameters one should look for while selecting a MOSFET driver? The most important parameter is your gate drive current. Depending on your output voltage, your gate drive current varies. Higher is your gate drive current, faster is your rise time, and more cleaner will be your output waveform. The second important parameter is the negative voltage handling capacity of your input pins. Your input pins should able to handle negative transients in case your input is coming from a gate driving transformer. Some ICs in market can support a negative transient capacity of input pins as high as -10 volts. The third important parameter of your MOSFET drivers is the negative transient handling capacity of your source pin, the pin which connects to your source of high side MOSFET and the drain of low side MOSFET. During a inductive load switching, you often see a negative voltage spike on your switch node. So your IC should be able to handle that negative transient for sufficient amount of time. Typical ICs in market address this negative transient on a source node by providing a -5 volt or -10 volt negative voltage spike on their source node pin. Few ICs even come with -18 volt to -20 volts of negative transient capacity of switch node pin for a few nanoseconds of time. The fourth important parameter while selecting your MOSFET driver is the voltage rating of your bootstrap diode. Some ICs don't have provision of a bootstrap diode inside your MOSFET driver. Some ICs come with a bootstrap diode which is integrated inside your MOSFET driver. Higher is the rating of your MOSFET driver, higher is the margin for the spikes that are coming on the drain of your MOSFETs. So generally the 100 volt bootstrap diode supports a 12 volt, 24 volt and 48 volt systems. So far we have discussed the basic operation of LF sine wave inverter, how we can drive MOSFETs in different topologies like full bridge, half bridge. Now I will be covering the line voltage and line current techniques. Traditional way of sensing the line voltage is using a 50 Hz transformer. They use a transformer to buck this voltage to step down this line voltage, and then this line voltage is fed to a comparator which detects a zero crossing. We require this line voltage sensing in order to turn on and turn off your inverter. Suppose I need to turn off my inverter between 90 volt to 300 volt of AC range, and I need to turn on my inverter when my AC falls below 90 volt and goes above 300 volt. To do this decision, microcontroller needs some sample of input AC voltage. In next slide, I will be explaining the traditional way of sensing the line voltage and what are its drawbacks and how we can discuss this and address this issue using a semiconductor components. So here you can see the traditional way of doing the AC voltage sensing. Here you can see a small step down transformer which operates at 50 Hz is used to sense the AC line voltage. This transformer is not only bulky, but it consumes a lot of space on your board. Also after aging, its linearity, performance and accuracy degrades. So is there any way by which we can address this issue? Yes, there is. In market there are many isolation amplifiers are available which can be used to do a AC voltage and AC current sensing. To explain the AC voltage sensing using an isolation amplifier, I am taking an example of AMC 1100. It is an isolation amplifier with a peak isolation voltage of 4.25 kV. So a typical isolation amplifier has a magnetic isolation or a galvanic isolation. Here you step down the AC input voltage to get a fraction of your AC input You fed this AC input to your amplifier input. Your amplifier generally has a output gain setting, but some amplifier come with a fixed input gain setting. Your input voltage is then amplified and fed back to your microcontroller. Isolation is provided by your IC. In this case, it is a galvanic isolation. It is important to know that whether your microcontroller has a single channel ADC or differential ADC. If your microcontroller has a differential ADC, you can feed the output of a differential amplifier directly to your microcontroller. In case your amplifier output is differential and your microcontroller ADC input is a single channel, in that case you need a differential to single-ended conversion stage in between to make it compatible with your microcontroller. Here are the typical test results that you get after doing the zero crossing detection. These test results are measured at 90 volt of input voltage. Here you can see after zero crossing detection, the square wave is fairly 50% duty cycle. This is the input to your isolation amplifier. The sine wave is the output of your isolation amplifier, and the square wave is a output of your zero crossing detection circuit. And these are the results at 270 volt AC. You can see over the range of 90 volt to 270 volt, the duty cycle of your zero crossing detection circuit is 50%, and linearity wise the performance is pretty good. So in this video we have seen what is the basic functionality of low frequency sine wave inverter, what are the different blocks that comes in your low frequency sine wave inverter, what are the different techniques to achieve DC to AC conversion, what are the different methods to drive your MOSFET bridge, and what are the efficient and intelligent techniques to sense your line voltage in order to reduce your BOM cost and board size. Thanks for watching this video. In case you have any questions, please get in touch with TI India Product Information Center and we will get back to you. Thank you.